I like nice cars. I like nice vacations. I like nice homes, but all those things are temporary and they're just stuff. You got to have a deeper purpose, whatever that is. Maybe it's your children, maybe it's a charity, maybe it's your community, maybe it's, something happening in this world that you see as an injustice and you want to fight for. And that's what I get passionate about. I can't stand to see children getting hurt. I can't stand to see injustices in this world. And I'm pretty far right wing. So it's, I'm a big believer in let's give a hand up, but let's also teach people to fish. There's an old Chinese proverb: you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, you teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. I'm a big believer in teaching people to fish. But we've all been in those spots. I've been there. I'm sure you've been there where, we need that hand up and someone tells us that they believe in us and get us back on track.
This episode is brought to you by Pierre Tax and Accounting, led by CPA Eric Pierre, a seasoned accounting and tax expert with years of experience helping individuals and businesses navigate complex financial landscapes. Whether you need personal tax planning, business tax strategy, bookkeeping, or financial planning support, Eric and his team are committed to helping you protect and grow your financial future with clarity and confidence. To get expert guidance you can trust, check out Pierre Tax and Accounting at pierreaccounting.com. We'd also like to thank Data Driven Decisions, founded by Katy Forster, for sponsoring today's show. Data Driven Decisions specializes in accounting, bookkeeping, payroll, and advisory services tailored specifically for small businesses and entrepreneurs who want financial clarity and peace of mind. From KPI reporting to fractional CFO support and QuickBooks training, Katy's team brings big firm expertise with a personal touch. Visit them at datadriven.coach to see how smart financial support can make all the difference in your business growth. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Builder's Bible. I'm joined by Bob Logan, who is a local service-based business owner in Colorado. And actually, the way we got a hold of Bob is just calling around to plumbing companies in the area. And I believe on the day we talked, Bob, you were hiring like 16 people in a day. I'm like, okay, this guy is, probably a baller. He's probably got a fairly large business and doing some cool stuff. So I'm excited to pick his brain and talk with him. Tell us about Plumline. How'd you get started? How'd you get into the business?
Sure. Well, prior to Plumline, I was in concrete construction doing residential foundations for a local company here, SCD Corp, and great company, great owners, love them to death, still good friends. But when the recession came, like most businesses, it went down quite fast. And so I looked around, went to work for Plumline, actually thinking it was going to be a temporary thing. And that was back in 2009. And 17 years later, here I am. And fell in love with the company, fell in love with the industry, the potential of Plumline. And at the time, we had about 35 employees. Now we got about 250.
That's insane. And I see your guys' vans all the time. I mean, I'm right in the Cherry Creek area, so you're doing something right, and it's really impressive. So kudos to you. Well, tell us a little bit about, just in terms of the business, like deal flow or top line sales, or whatever you feel comfortable. You don't have to tell us your profit, your P&L statement, but just tell us kind of just some broad numbers or broad strokes.
Sure. So Plumline is 100% residential service. And we used to do about 30% commercial, a little bit of new construction when we first got started. After I joined in 2009, I saw the potential in residential service. And then when the original owner decided he wanted to retire, I bought the business in 2018, stopped doing commercial work and just focused on the residential side. So we do plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical services, all for homeowners. And like I said, we've had some pretty good growth over the last several years, 250 employees, and top line sales a little north of $50 million.
Wow, it's really impressive. And I talk to a lot of service-based businesses, and there seem to be some real glass ceilings at different break points in the business, and you've broken through quite a few of them. So congrats to you. Out of curiosity, one of the things I talk to a lot of those businesses about is new client acquisition. So I'm assuming you have it dialed in. How are you getting your clients? Are you doing paid ads? Are you doing referral programs? Or what's your kind of, strategy?
All the above. So you know, uh, we spend quite a bit of money on advertising. Typically, about 7 or 8% of our top line revenue every year goes to advertising, TV, radio, billboards, pay per click. Um, and we do a lot of print ads as well. We do have a referral program for our clients that refer us to their friends and family, and it's been successful for us. But yeah, number one thing is taking care of your clients. Our repeat business is our biggest part of our business, and if you take care of the clients in front of you, they're going to become raving fans, come back time and time again, tell their friends and family. And these days, with social media, it doesn't only extend to the neighborhood, but to the whole world.
Amen. I love that. Okay, this is a two-parter. Tell us something about your business you're particularly proud of, people, culture, process, whatever it might be. And then what's, a challenge that you're facing that you're trying to overcome?
Yeah. So the thing I'm proudest of at Plumline is our culture. We have a tremendous group of people that live and breathe our core values every single day. The way they live personally, the way they serve our clients, the way they help each other out as teammates, the quality of the work they do, the pride they take in their workmanship. And so our culture is the biggest thing, and we protect it. We don't hire just anybody. And if we do, and we find out they're not a good cultural fit, we help free up their employment very quickly. And
that's a nice way to put that.
So I'm very proud about that. So that's really our biggest challenge as well, finding good people that fit our culture, because in the service world, it's a little bit different. Not only do they have to have the licensing requirements, the technical skills, the craftsmanship that goes along with good quality work, but they have to have some soft skills too. They have to have customer service skills. They have to have the right look. Communication skills, a little bit of salesmanship, and so we can, with someone with the right technical skills, the right personality, the character, the work ethic, we can train on a lot of those things. But we train probably 50% or better of our training is on customer service, as much as it is technical.
That's so good. I love that you mentioned raving fans. I feel like that's so important in the service-based business, is the reviews. And it's interesting. We have an AI automations business that we have, and I've been doing a deep dive on AI search, which is the next big thing, I think, for that space. And reviews. That's it. Point blank period is a huge part of it. And keep them fresh, keep them coming. And one of the interesting things about that is they have to be authentic reviews. So
Yes.
can't just have a bunch of 5-star reviews from your friends. Like that, AI will know that's bogus. And so, more and more people are finding companies like yours using Chat and Gemini and Claude. And so I love the raving fans and the customer service thing. That's so, so important. Go ahead. I think you had a thought on
I was
that.
just going to say, you're absolutely right. They do have to be authentic. They have to come from your customers, and you've got to earn them. People are hesitant to give a review to a company that just does a mediocre job for them, because as a homeowner, when you bring a tradesman into your house, you expect them to do good quality work and get it right, and deliver good products and all those things. So every day we have to go above and beyond what the expectations of our clients are, and only then do we deserve to get that 5-star review.
I love that. Let's talk about AI for a second. A good natural transition. How are you guys leveraging it currently?
Yeah, primarily looking at the algorithms that go with our marketing, also in our call center. Uh, AI is listening to every single incoming phone call to determine if there's something that we could have done a little bit better, provided a bit better service. Um, starting to use it on the dispatching side. We've got trucks, as you said, all over Denver metro area. We extend up into northern Colorado, Fort Collins, Greeley, Loveland, and we might think we know the best way to dispatch, but computers are way faster than we are and much smarter. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest interrupters of our business. We're just scratching the surface right now, but whether it's new construction, service, commercial, it doesn't matter. I know it's becoming a little bit of a cliche, but artificial intelligence, I think it's going to blow our minds what we're going to see in the next 5 years.
I love that. Where do you feel like, Bob, you could be using it, but you're not? Like, I think there's an AI for that, but I'm not really sure.
Well, there's some areas, for example, our call center. So I want to deliver an outstanding customer service experience with every interaction, whether it's on the phone or in person. And when you call companies that are using AI for their call centers,
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's just not authentic. It's, I'm not saying it can't be used, and certainly for after hours and things like that. I think we could probably utilize that a little bit better. I have listened to a few demonstrations where I had a really hard time knowing that it was not a real person on the other side. The computer was asking great questions. They were empathetic. They were articulate. They were professional, and
Mm-hmm.
it's I think there's still that place for a warm person with a personality and understanding that goes along with that.
Yeah.
But there's so many areas of our business I think we can capitalize on.
Yeah. That's so good. Okay. I know a lot of service-based business owners that listen to business owners that listen to this podcast. I feel like there's a break point at like 3 million. There seems to be a break point, depending on the industry, like 6 to 10 million if you're in construction versus plumbing versus electrical. Like, what would your advice be to some of these guys that are maybe teams of 2, 3, 5, 10, and they want to get to where you're at? Like, what was like one or two things that you really had to do to break through those kind of glass ceilings?
Yeah, the probably one of my strengths is surrounding myself with people who are smarter than I am or better at certain areas of the business than I am. And I think, as an entrepreneur or an owner, you want to maintain as much control as you possibly can. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, especially when you take so much pride in the delivery of your services. But at some point, you can't do it all. You have to rely on other individuals. And I think that's where people struggle to go past those break points. So number one is finding the right people. They can compensate for your weaknesses. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe I've done a very good job with that. And then two, making sure your organizational structure, your systems and your processes are all scalable. I made the mistake early on of designing an org chart or structures of processes based on the current needs of the business. And then as we started to grow, I realized that structure or those processes weren't going to work. So look way beyond where you think you're going to be, 50, 100 million, $250 million, and ask yourself, is this structure or these processes going to be scalable to those points? And if they're not, change them sooner than later.
Yeah. What are like maybe one or two business principles? So it sounds like surrounding yourself with much smarter people, systems, right? Any other like business principles, tips, tricks, lines of thinking, books you've read, anything else that you'd want to impart to the audience?
Well, you can see my library behind me, and this is just a small portion of the books. And Andrew, I was not a good student growing up. I barely made out of high school. I flunked out of college. I wasn't a good reader. Very slow, didn't comprehend well. And shortly after I flunked out of college, I was given a book called "See You at the Top" by Zig Ziglar, and I fell in love with it. The reading, and I started reading as many self-improvement books as I could. So most of the books behind me have, there's a few that have to do with business, finance, accounting, whatever the case might be. But most of them are about self-improvement, relationships, things like that. And and I devour them to this day. So that's helped me grow. I don't think your organization can continue to grow if you're not willing to grow personally.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a great thing. I big fan of Dan Martell. I don't know if you know who he is, the buy back your time guy. And I saw like a little clip of him talking to like a young entrepreneur, and they're like, "What's one piece of advice?" He's like, "You want to know something that every poor person has in their house? A TV. You want to know what they don't have? A library, right? So you want to go over to a rich guy's house? What do you think he has? Library. How much time do you think he spends on his TV? Probably not a lot, right?" And I think that's such a great word. It's like a leader is a reader. And so taking as much information, surround yourself with greater people. Those are great tips. Is there anything we haven't talked about today that gets you fired up? It could be a hot take about sports. Could be anything and everything. It doesn't have to be related to business.
Oh, wow. That's you caught me off guard here a little bit. Well, I mean, I'm passionate about my faith. It's for everything that we do. I don't care if you make $1 million a year or if you get all the material things you want. At the end of the day, we're all answerable to a higher power, and just having that peace and joy that I have. Again, I like nice cars, I like nice vacations, I like nice homes, but all those things are temporary and they're just stuff. You got to have a deeper purpose, whatever that is. Maybe it's your children, maybe it's a charity, maybe it's your community, maybe it's something happening in this world that you see as an injustice and you want to fight for, and that's what I get passionate about. I can't stand to see children getting hurt. I can't stand to see injustices in this world, and I'm pretty far right wing, so it's I'm a big believer in let's give a hand up, but let's also teach people to fish. There's an old Chinese proverb: you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day; you teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. I'm a big believer in teaching people to fish, and but we've all been in those spots. I've been there. I'm sure you've been there, where we need that hand up and someone tells us that they believe in us and get us back on track. So I'm okay with
Amen.
that.
I love that. That's the reason for the season. That's a great word and a huge part of how I run my businesses. So I knew that I recognized something about you and how you kind of held yourself. So that's amazing. So Bob, thanks so much for coming on the show. Don't go anywhere because I want to keep talking, but thanks so much for coming on the podcast. Real quick, if people want to learn more about who you are and what you do, where can they go?
Yeah, go to plumlineservices.com. That's our website. It shows everything about our business, our service areas, what trades we offer, our core values, careers, you name it, it's all on there. If they want to get a hold of me, I'm happy to give my personal cell phone number, 303-500-4000. And one of the things I love, I've had so many people help me in this business as mentors. And if there's anything I can do to help anybody else, even a competitor, because I believe in elevating our entire industry.
Wow. You don't hear that a lot. So cool. That's amazing. So you guys heard it here first. Everybody give Bob a call. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much. That's so generous of you. Thanks for coming on the show. Don't go anywhere. I want to keep talking, but thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Andrew.